Hi, I'm Krusty.
Hi, I'm Don. You're watching the Break It Down show.
Yes, indeed. We love to have musicians on the show. One of the roots of the show is music, and we've had world famous people who make incredible music. Like I don't know, Dexter from The Offspring has been on the show, or Angelo Moore from Fishbone. But sometimes you also just get badass people who are also musicians that you maybe never have heard of. And one of our favorite things when John and I started the show, we talked about the best gig in the world is probably being in a ZZ Top tribute band because you can be completely anonymous when you're home, but you can also be badasses on stage because I mean there's no tighter set than what these guys do. And so it turns out that my buddy Cornbread, who happens to be here, is in a ZZ Top tribute band called Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers in the Bay Area.
Yes,
And
sir.
then Don and Krusty are in one in the Colorado area. And I'm like, how do I not pass? I can't pass this up. I got to have you guys together all on the same show. So just for the audience to understand, Cornbread is the Bay Area. And then Krusty and Don are in Colorado. They do the same job, but totally different parts of the nation. So we're going to talk to these guys, and Cornbread's going to act as my co-host / expert / Ed McMahon. And we're going to go have a good time talking about beer drinking, hell raising, and fandangoing.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Cornbread, will you start us off? What questions do you have for these guys?
Well, man, I know everybody's got a different backstory of how all this came about, right? Because, you just weren't coming out of the womb playing ZZ Top, although almost.
Almost.
How did you guys first meet, and how did this whole thing come about? And how long have you guys been doing it,
Go ahead, Don.
We've been doing it for about a year and a half now. And I was playing in a local band here in town called Vivid Black. Mike was playing in several other bands. We've known each other for years. I had him do some paint work for me, and he's a local artist that I've known forever. But so we had been always joking back and forth because whenever we went out together, somebody would always say, "Hey, it looks like it's ZZ Top." And since yes, exactly. And since he's a killer player, the only problem was that we're both guitar players. And he said, we ought to really do this thing. And I said, but here's the problem. Who's going to play bass? And he goes, dude, I want to play bass.
Oh, it wasn't you didn't Rochambeau for it? It was.
No, he said, no, this style is he's a more progressive player and is a phenomenal guitar player. But he said, this is more in your wheelhouse, and I want to play bass. I'll let him tell you the reason why he laid up guitar for a while there. It's a thing with him. But so we decided to get serious about it. And I said, you really want to get serious? And he goes, dude, I already have a drummer. Tim was like down the way going, Tim, I'm in. I want to play drums in this thing. Nice. And we were off to the races. This was during COVID. So the other band had kind of folded up, and we were just kind of looking for things to do. And we thought, this is the perfect time to spend some time doing a little bit of prep work, learning the material. We didn't quite know what we were getting into because we had not delved as deep covering some of ZZ Top songs in our previous incarnations in other bands. And it was a learning experience for sure, because when you start digging deep into Billy Gibbons style, it's not a matter of just, playing these as their cover songs. It's a whole deal. He's an entity unto himself.
So many undiscovered gems, and then you jump in and you're like, oh, man. Tejas, are you kidding me?
Tejas.
It's just like that whole record is just, genius. And
it is genius.
Yeah. And if I wouldn't have done the exact same thing, was to pursue this ZZ Top thing, I probably would have never discovered a lot of that stuff, so digging deep, and I realized, like, damn, these guys bring it big time. And then it turned up the heat to have to kind of make sure that you do it justice, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
You don't want to desecrate any, sacred temples, and that's exactly what ZZ Top is. And
and every guitar player has heard them through the ages. And one of the things that I really discovered about him is the way he uses hybrid picking all the time. And I had not really done a whole lot of that before. So it took me into a new direction of playing that was a new path of discovery, and I dug it. I still am learning stuff every time I listen to him.
Right. Now, Tim, who's our Billy, because I'm Dusty in this whole thing. Same thing. Actually, he started on the drums. We had another guitar player. This was all a goof to do like a birthday party for a guy that was like turning 50. ZZ Top was like his favorite band on planet Earth. He's like, man, want to do like a surprise party for him and we'll play ZZ Top. And we're like, all right. And that's kind of how that started. You know, this is like 13 years ago. And we jammed with that guy for a little bit. And Tim ended up playing drums. And we had the 3-beard attack, triple beard threat. So it was kind of a strange little outfit. And we did that for a little while. And then that guitar player, he kind of bowed out. And we're driving home from the gig. And he's like, man, learned all these ZZ Top songs. I'm like, dude, now you just got to learn the guitar parts. And it's time to go. And that's exactly what he did, man. He does Billy a ton of justice, man. And yeah, cool. You got to, right? So
yes.
And to play Dusty, that's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean? That guy is a gentleman beyond gentleman, and you have to kind of try to represent that as well. You know, as be a good dude, right?
Well, what a solid bass player too, man.
Oh, dude. And then this was what I put together myself in his honor. It's a 68 Tele bass.
Yes.
And it's as close as I can come, you know. But yeah, put it together myself, and there he is.
Right.
I've been playing for we're going on 12 years doing this thing. It's crazy. Like,
wow, good for you guys, man.
500 shows. It's like, oh man. And it's got to the point where it's just like, yeah, you just show up, and I'm thinking about like I got to clean the garage tomorrow and all this other stuff, and you're just sitting there playing because it's just so ingrained in you don't even have to give it a second thought, and which makes it fun. And we're learning more songs as we go. Every Mexican Blackbird and all that. So we're like, all right, we'll get to it. El Diablo, right? I mean, there's just some deep stuff that Precious and Grace,
What
all
are
that.
the ladies and gentlemen at a Fandango show? What do they yell at you? What songs do they want to hear?
Wow, we've heard everything. I think throughout the collective time that we've been together, we've heard the deep cuts, because it seems like most of our audiences generally 50 plus when we do that. So we hear a lot of the older stuff, but we hear Mexican Blackbird quite a bit. That's one for sure. Legs was a huge one. We were finally, we're like, okay, we got to do this song, but that particular song is so laid up. That it's so laid up that the tracking on it was just really felt like we weren't going to do it justice, and it was going to be sparse. If we did try pulling off with just the three of us without the tracks. So it took us a while to feel comfortable doing that.
Oh, it's like Krusty's stuck.
He's locked.
We'll come back to
He's in paper.
This is an important thing, though. I wanted to make sure I asked this, Don, because there's a lot going on in a lot of these songs, right? There's a lot of production value in there, and you guys are 3 people. So how are you guys working around the parts that just don't fit into a 3-person band?
We've decided that if we can't do it as a 3-piece, we would rather do another song because there's so many to pick from. So we've tried to stay away from doing any kind of tracks. And so we've been studying their live videos, and a lot of them they do as a 3-piece. Some of them they don't, like Legs. They lip sync that one, and they've got some tracks. But I was watching those, and we kind of fit around the parts, and it sounded we think it sounds nice and full. So we just went with it just as a 3-piece. And I kind of like the vibe of it being stripped down like a straight up 3-piece rock and roll band. It's fun. So, but there's a couple like that have some serious production in the background, and we most of the time we just study their live videos and find out how they're doing it. And most of the time they're just doing it as a straight 3-piece. And so that's where we get our example from.
Right. That's exactly what we do. We have no backing tracks or any of that. So we just end up interpreting a lot of that era of stuff, TV dinners, You know,
Yep, we do that one too.
Example, because we don't have any of that, so we put more of just that. You just get the groove going, right? And that's all you really need.
That's it. Yeah.
Although we've been talking about getting into some of that stuff, so I don't know. We'll see. I still can't figure out my Wi-Fi, so I don't know how the hell I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with all that stuff, you know, and we spent so much time like really just dialing in the tones and you know, finding the right voices out of the instruments to really pay tribute and not sound like you know, Warren DeMartini playing in a Rat band, you know, which we've seen, you know, at times with other tribute bands. It seems as though they lose that, or they're only comfortable playing with a certain level of distortion that doesn't necessarily emulate ZZ Top all that well. And so for me, it was no big deal. I don't think it was any big deal for Don, because he's always kind of played with that certain raw, essential rock vibe and tone. You know, for me, I was a little bit more of a metal player as a guitar player. And so to jump over to bass and just focus on what Dusty had done on the recordings and the live performances throughout the years, it was a lot easier for me, because it really came down to just a single coil pickup and one knob and a set of 110 strings, and I'm off to the races.
That's it, man. You guys, if you sound like you're farting in a garbage can, then you're getting close, right?
Yeah. With Dusty's bass, for sure. It's funny when you solo the bass tracks. I've been watching a lot of the rig rundowns and so on with ZZ Top, and he uses a lot of distortion. And I heard Elwood, like, this is way before Dusty died. Elwood was talking about the bass tone. He said people would come up and go, "What's wrong with it? What's wrong with his amp? Is something broken?" And I think it fills out the sound, and in context, it sounds really good.
Right. I believe they were using those Marshall like single rack preamps.
JMP1, and both are using an identical rig for guitar and bass. It's pretty funny.
Exactly. It's just it's crazy what you would perceive it to be and then what it actually is, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Never guess.
Yeah. Do you guys happen to have a Magnatone endorsement yet, Cornbread?
No.
I want one.
Is he frozen up again?
I don't know, but he froze on a good pose. That's a pretty cool pose.
You're back.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Joey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir.
Sorry I joined a couple minutes late, but, you know, in the spirit of things, I jumped in right at the right time, because talking about, you know, the live performance, players are players. You know, you turn the stuff on and you get going, and that's it. That's an organic performance. You know, you're there, you're with the crowd, you're going to create. I recently went to a show. There's a country songwriter named Nico Moon, who is a good songwriter, and he's young, but you know what his show was mostly about was him, and he had two guys with him, a guitar player and a drummer playing an electronic drum set, and they were playing against tracks. And his sound is a country sound on like a hip hop drum machine. So he's got a lot of 808 and stuff. And, you know, it's young and contemporary, but when you're watching it, you know, and I don't want to take anything away from him because he's great. He's a great young artist. And I'm really hopeful for him, but it's different, man, especially if you're a player and you're in the audience and you're watching them play the tracks like that. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm. No, in fact, a lot of people have gone to like digital amps and so on, and we've been stalwarts as far as sticking to, let's plug into real amps, let's rock this thing. Because when you're standing in front of a stage, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, and you're seeing a band that's using an electronic drum kit and all digital direct amps, there's nothing coming off the stage.
You got to move air.
You're missing that whole 3D sound of the stage volume mixing with the PA out in front, and it just adds a dimension that brings me back to the old days when I used to go to shows and stand there in the front, you know, glued to the stage.
Well, you're relinquishing your right to play as loud as you want, right? So I mean, that's where you got the sound guy out front. He can do whatever he wants. He's like, "Oh, I'm bringing these guys down." You got some amps on stage. You turn up. You're where you're at. He's like, "God damn, I got to meet these guys." You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like if he ain't ready for a rock show, well, we are. You know what I mean? So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
When we roll, old Marshall JMP heads. By myself, I just went to Aguilar Bass Head. One of the sound companies. We did the Street Vibrations motorcycle rally out in Reno.
Mm-hmm.
And my orange, I had an orange deal going with my original band, so I brought that over. And I blew both my heads up, and I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do? And they were like, these Aguilars are top notch. They were doing Fleetwood Mac and Oreo Speedwagon, Foreigner, right? All these kind of major acts. And so that thing never went on the bench once. The Ampeg, every time it came back, something had to be done to it. You know what I mean? Right. So playing so many shows that we do, and you need something that's reliable. And that thing has been a workhorse, man. I got to say,
those are great amps.
I rolled another Sans amp in front of that little Sans amp preamp, the bass kind of DI. Put a little dirt on it. There's your garbage can, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Mike has got these little. He's been using Mark basses, and they're these little cabinets that weigh 23 pounds a piece.
Yeah, with the orange and the black. Yeah. I know exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know why guitar players have been left in the 50s and the 40s, because they have these big old tube heads, and I have one, and I lug it because it sounds so good.
Yeah, and you can't beat them. I mean, 62 Princeton right there. You know what I mean? It's the tone. So it's like, what are you going to buy a simulator? No, go get the real deal, and it actually, you'd be amazed. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, that's how you get that sound.
Yeah. We started off, and I bought a big, huge SWR rig. It was like 900 watt stereo, and it was ridiculously large and heavy. Each cabinet was like 110 pounds.
Right.
And I was just like hauling these things, and it had a rack with the two heads in it. And oh my God, at the end of the night, I was just like, and then when we played up in the mountains and we had to all kind of go drive up together, and Don let me borrow his little Mark bass amplifier, 400 watts with a single 12 in it. And I couldn't believe how loud it was. It sounded amazing. So shortly after that, I went out and bought myself two Mark bass 115 cabinets and with a 400 watt powered head. And man, I just can't believe what that thing does, how well it does it. And it's a real blessing because I can carry both cabinets in at the same time. And I'm so thankful for that amp. I can't tell you. Nice. It's amazing.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you what, I got 810s in the garage that haven't seen action in, almost 10 years. You know what I mean? It sounded good, at the time when you're a youngster. And then,
Yeah, that's what the SWR was 10s as well. And I thought, they were going to be 10s. So I went and bought this thing off this guy who bought them brand new. And I go to pick them up and put them in the back of my truck, and I almost totally evacuated my bowels.
Yeah, man.
But
so meanwhile, the guy you bought it from's got a bad back,
right?
And you didn't pick it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what's wrong with that guy.
I'd help you, man, but can't get off the couch.
I think him and his wife were like clapping in the front hallway when I was driving down the road. They were happy to see that.
We hooked one.
Hey, we got a comment from Dave Lawson. He's the bass player in my band, and he's old school too.
Hey, Dave, what's happening?
Yeah.
Hi, Dave.
An 810 cabinet. That's going back.
Yeah, those I've seen those, and they're around, and you can find those pretty reasonably because nobody wants to haul them around. I mean, they're fucking.
That must have been one of those old Ampegs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they sound so damn good though, man. Great. You can't deny that. So it's like,
they sound awesome.
But yeah, there's a point where you sounding good and you being able to get up in the morning to mow the lawn. Yeah.
They sound especially good if you have a crew.
Oh man, when does that happen? You'd have to pay those guys. You see, that's the problem. It's just like, oh man.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, well, how difficult of a job do guys like us have in this band? And You know, the thing of it is when they make comparisons, they're thinking ZZ Top, we must have tour buses or something around the corner, you know, and we don't have a crew of 20 loading in, loading out. We're there loading in, setting up, playing. At the end of the night, we're like, you know, and we're, you know, not exactly young, spry young men anymore, but you know, that's the big difference. We were talking about that, always riding home, you know. I can't imagine ZZ Top doing. I mean, at their age 70s, you know, those guys, you know, trying to do what we've been doing for all these years as, you know, musicians, as we all have to. There's a big difference. I think when you achieve that level of success and you have the assistance to make your job more focused on just being a musician, I think that's, you know, good. But at the same time, it's kind of like my way of still kind of feeling somewhat youthful, like I can still do this, but I'll still take my Mark bass cabinets, please.
I salute. That's man business right there.
Yeah.
You know, we had I'm gonna name drop. We had Elliott Randall on the show a few months back. Yeah, and he was talking about playing. He played "Reeling in the Years" through an Ampeg head, and you know, I mean, he had this bass rig, and you know, I always thought, now what? I can't remember what guitar he used, but I always thought it was a Les Paul, and it wasn't. You know, it was like he played a Strat through a bass rig, and I asked him, well, what made you choose the bass rig? And it, you know, he didn't want to move it. So sometimes you get a great sound because you're lazy and you happen upon a happy accident.
I'll buy
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can contest to the lazy.
It is pretty cool though when you're, you know, when you move stuff around, that you know that you start the gig off sweaty.
No doubt.
When you had to move your stuff in place.
Always.
Yeah.
Have you guys actually found, like with the ZZ, the Beer Drinkers band, have you found like garments that you find, you know, jackets that are lightweight where you're not like dropping 15 pounds a gig? You know?
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of part of it. I got this. I had the Sharp Dressed Man, so I threw on some. But it's basically you go down to the Western shop, right? And you're like, all right, what do we got? What do we got? And occasionally it's like my wife walks through Macy's like at around New Year's Eve, and they're selling these really kind of flamboyant, like, you know, party jackets. And she's like, man, I found this cool jacket. And she take a picture of it. I might grab two of them. And bam, there it is.
Grab two.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of, you know, we never went to try to emulate them exactly, right? Where it was just like, we really just wanted to kind of capture the essence, you know, kind of the 70s version of what they were doing. You know?
Exactly.
Although we would have to get into the Eliminator. I mean, there's no way around that. But
yeah,
as far as we weren't trying to like give you that whole experience, it was just more of like, yeah, we're paying tribute to these guys.
Yeah.
So
enjoy the nostalgic interpretation.
And you know, the part of it too is the vocals, right? So, you know, we don't really stay true to that per se. We pretty much go tit for tat for songs. Because sometimes we're doing like 30 plus in a set, you know what I mean? And they're just like, damn. So he'll sing one, I'll sing one, he'll sing one, kind of we'll ping pong back and forth. And whichever one suits whoever better, that's who sings it, right? So we're not trying to exactly emulate them. We just want to give you, we're the Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, and we play ZZ Top. You know what I mean? And that's how we do it. And
sure.
It's work.
Funny. One of our first dates together, Mike and I, we went clothes shopping together. We were talking about our wives going, oh man, they must think we've lost our minds. We're talking clothes and, hey, what do you think about this little hey, what should we wear tonight? Does it match our shoes kind of thing? It's like, oh boy.
Hey, I need to go to the bathroom. Do you need to go to the bathroom?
It hasn't gotten that far just yet.
Now, have done the garbage man look, because we did that for a while, right? So we had the kind of the mechanics, coveralls. and the dusty, all that. So we kind of did that for a while, and then we moved on to more sophisticated look. But yeah, we bring things back sometimes. I mean, right? It's all part of it. I haven't put on a beret yet, so that's one thing that
I got one, but I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, that takes, man. He's got some stones, man, to be able to wear that thing with, But with the beard like that, I mean, how the hell can you go wrong, right? If you wear that, you really want.
Yeah, the beards are casualties of our straps.
Yes.
we got those freaking bullet straps in the last one, and the beard, like you try to change that guitar, and it's like your guitar straps caught in your
I'm stuck.
Hey, dog,
like,
can you
Mike,
help me out here?
Now, have you got the spinning guitars yet, or is that?
No, not yet.
Okay, so I've got the straps, but I still haven't figured it out because we got the fuzzy bass. It's over there somewhere, but yeah, the way those things work, it's like we found the original company that made them, right? Google. It's beautiful. And I'm like, all right, here they are. And yeah, they like stick to the back of the guitar. And I was like, man, this fuzz is kind of getting in the way. So I got to cut it and there's some things to do, but we've got them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of wrap around your neck. I don't know if you've seen them or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a company that makes them, and I figured, well, give it a shot. But yeah, I've had them for like 6 months, still haven't got them going. So
you're still in test phase, huh? You didn't modify a lazy Susan.
I can't tell you how many people ask about those, right? You got the spinning guitars,
every day,
exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
I haven't quite worked that technology out yet. It's a trade secret. They haven't really relinquished that yet. We're still working on it. So that's kind of what we would say. And but yeah, we got them. I just haven't put them on yet. And we never play the fuzzies anyway. It's just like, Tim plays like a 71 gold top. I got the 68. It's like, why would you play anything else? Right. So it's kind of, we get to those songs and I'm looking over at the fuzzy guitars and I'm like, let's just keep going.
They absorb too much tequila and Jägermeister, and you just can't clean your stage spills out of them that easily, is my fear. And
I've got like 3 of them. The 2, there's one that you can't even take in public and get arrested, man. It's just so gnarly looking. You're like, oh man, look at that thing, dude. That's child abuse right there, or something, So
we'd have to be.
I really appreciate that we're hearing the real practical challenges of this particular venture, because nobody thinks about, hey man, I'm gonna spill Jaeger on this fuzzy.
I never had a case that fit that thing, right? So it was always like in the back of the van. You know what I mean? And it ends up like on the floor, and there was
we talked about that
pink popcorn that had fallen down from the zoo visit. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, what the hell's on my bass? This is not good.
Be taking your guitar down to the dog wash every week.
Pressure wash it. Yeah. So, but we're still working on different aspects, like you said, the whole sampling thing, and the sleeping bag, and so we've been talking about doing that, and maybe doing it coming up, because like I said, we've been doing this for almost 12 years, and to change it up a little bit, like they did, I guess, right? Because they obviously they didn't stick with the whole LaGrange Tush combination for their career. They're very much pioneers and always kind of looking to every album, right, is different. You're like, damn, these guys were experimental. They weren't afraid to kind of reach out, and so to try to do the same thing ourselves is probably a good idea. So
yet another way to pay tribute.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be true to it, you know what I mean? I know it's easy because there's so much back material you could play. You could do all 70 stuff, not even get into Eliminator, and you still have got 2.5 hours with material, you know what I mean? So it's like, what do you want to do is the thing. And, but you always got that guy in the back, every girl's crazy, it's like, all right, you're right. And
yes.
So we've been using "Asleep in the Desert" as our walk-on music, and I love that song.
Nice!
And that's, talk about being experimental for a 3-piece boogie band to play an acoustic finger style, beautiful song. It's just
exactly.
Really cool.
That's why, they were always, and I think it's Billy just had that kind of, he was always searching, questing for, oh, what's this? And and then he wore it on his sleeve, man. He wasn't afraid to say, hey, it's an influence, and he brought it in, and and some of it is really obvious, some of that 80s MTV stuff, and then you hear what they did, and you're like, oh man, I hear some I hear some similarities. But that's okay, man. I mean, and they made it their own, and I mean, look at the career, right? You can't, 50 years plus. No other rock band in history, I think, could say with the same three guys. I mean, forget about it. So
but I think the fact that we have all of us sitting here on a podcast discussing and actively participating in a tribute band for ZZ Top says the power that they've had in an industry where we ourselves can have the success that we have because of what they brought to the game. It's just been really challenging at times to try to figure out what not to play.
Right. Because you can do all deep tracks, and then there's people like, you got to play any ZZ Top, and you're like, dude, we have it. You know what I mean? They just don't know it. And so we've had that. We just actually did this guy's backyard party, and he came up, and we did Thunderbird, right? And after that, he goes, hey man, I appreciate you guys doing originals and stuff, but why don't you just keep it to ZZ Top?
No way.
Really?
Wow.
Fandango, dude, side one. Come on now.
Really?
But what are you gonna do?
That's funny.
Yeah. So you gotta keep the customers happy.
That's right. Well, along those lines, have you guys found any situations where you exposed a younger generation to music that they liked, and then they found ZZ Top through you?
That's a good question. I don't know if we've had a direct effect, but we do know that there's been some gigs that we've played where there's, when you do those outdoor all ages types of gigs at like a festival type of setting, there's lots of little kids that are out in front, and even teenagers. And there's guys that have come up, and young guys that are players. Like we played down in Walsenburg, Colorado, a small place. All these teenagers came up after the show, and they're going, wow, you guys are badass. And I don't think that they knew who ZZ Top was, but they said, hey, our band is jamming over, down the street. Do you want to go with us? And so Mike was with his family down there. So Tim and I, the drummer, we went over to this jam. It was like a garage jam, and it brought back so many cool memories, and they were thrilled. We were thrilled because we're going, wow, this is back when they had whatever garbage amp they had, and they plug in and they're just banging their heads and drinking beer and playing really loud. And I'm going, this brings back some awesome memories. And I think we had an influence on them at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really cool that way. And I think that, yes, few and far between, we might have influenced some people towards ZZ Top now.
And on the opposite side of that, John, I think we've had even a greater influence on people who are close to retirement age to look at us up on stage and enjoying ourselves doing what we did 40, 50 years ago ourselves. I think that's as important as possibly reaching out and spreading the gospel of ZZ Top to the younger generations. I think that it's good to let people know that, sometimes it aches to be up here, but we're up here. We love what we do. We love being representatives for ZZ and doing what we do. And we want to bring them as much honor and tribute as we can. So I'd like to think that, you know what I mean? I like to think people see us and say to themselves, you know what, man, life isn't over. We can still go do something we love to do.
Yes.
I think that's
absolutely
true. One of the things we have always talked about is when we get done with a show, and if somebody comes up and they say, you know what, we really had fun. That's the biggest compliment we can get.
Yeah.
And we played outdoors in a park up in Riverton, Wyoming, just this last weekend. We played 2 shows up there. And one of the comments was that this guy said to one of the friends of the guys running production, said, look around you. Every single person to a person has a smile on their face. Yeah. When was the last time that you saw that? And I'm not saying that was because of us, but I think that ZZ Top inherently is just a fun band. And they're going, wow, even if you don't know the material, like you're playing some old school stuff like Francine or some of those songs, and they're just bopping their head and smiling the whole time because it brings back memories of a time that maybe we've lost in terms of even just production value.
Right. You
So-
listen to Francine, and you don't tell me that those guys didn't just play with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We had that
Right.
discussion. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, they stole everything they knew at that point from the Rolling Stones. But
You know,
what a
it was
great song.
but that's what's
Yeah.
great about it is they're like, they're not ashamed of it. It's just like, music's music, and we're gonna bend it the way we bend it, and it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, also give yourself some credit, man, because yes, absolutely, the reinterpretation of ZZ Top's great body of work. They gave you great source material, but you are the one moving air that day, and somebody
Yes.
is moved by what you're doing. And I had the greatest compliment ever last weekend. I was loading out, and there was 2 couples left, and I walked by one, and this girl who was just snockered, God bless her, came up to me and said, "You guys were playing, and you were playing so good, the buttons on my jeans just flew off." And then she showed me that the buttons on her jeans had flown off. And, would she have been the one that I would pick for the buttons to fly off? Maybe not. But in the spirit of buttons flying off a jean, that doesn't happen. It probably happened to Cornbread 100 times, but to me,
Buttons are
that
buttons,
was the
man.
first time
You
that
just
happened.
gotta take it that way. It's just like, man, something in the universe just happened.
Yeah.
And hats off to you.
For sure.
Absolutely. Man.
Yeah,
I'll take
that's
it.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. She was really
You guys got any
snockered.
gigs coming up, or what's happening?
Yeah, we're playing at Bohemian Grove on Wednesday.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, not we, but
for the Illuminati, or what?
I'll be there. Well, I'll be there playing for the Illuminati. Yeah. And that'll be fun. But yeah, we're not, we don't stay as big. My band is a British rock band, but we play all of it's not a tribute band. We play all of the British invasions. The 60s one, the 80s one, the 90s one.
Very cool.
So yeah,
That
we
is
do
cool.
Stones and Beatles and Cult and Cure and all of
Do you
all
do
of
the
the stuff.
Hollies?
Yeah, we play I'm the drummer,
Uncle
so I
Woman?
pay attention to what the song is. To a season of love. Yeah. What's your name? Who's your dad? We do that. Yeah, it's fun because we also have our guitar player is super British. He's from London, but he's lived here in the States on and off for about 30 years. And he's got a son who he brought along with him, who's our keyboard player. And he's also super British, but he lives here now as well. So, the accent is authentic.
That's cool.
So I feel like the accent is authentic, just like you guys wear real beards. And it makes a difference.
Now, let me just put this on record right now. I've seen there's some ZZ Top bands out there, and they're doing it with what looks to be like an Acme mop on their chin.
Yes.
No, that's not good.
Man, I don't, how do they make it out of the club? I just don't know. I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, to me, it's like, come on, guys.
I just saw those guys a couple weeks ago, and Billy made the comment because Elwood Francis is playing bass for him now, and
right.
And he says, and I just want you people to know this is no pin-up beard over here. This is the real thing. It's not a pin-on beard. And he goes over and kind of grabs it, and I'm going, yeah, you go, man.
You can't fake the funk.
You can't fake the funk. That's right.
So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Love, to embrace the beard. In fact, I don't know if you guys check those guys out of Australia, the Beards that do all beard music. It's just like every song is about beards. Now,
I've not heard that one.
Yeah, I don't dig chicks, but I love beards, and you're like, whoa, what's up? But it's actually really, really cool. And it was funny. I played in an original band with Tim. We were over in Europe, and I'm in the bathroom of the club, and this guy walks in, and a big Norwegian dude, and he's looking at me, and he's like, oh, you bid. And he starts singing me one of their songs, right? Which I happen to know verbatim. So we both sat there in this bathroom and we're singing this Beard song together. And this guy's like taking a leak in the corner, like, what the hell's going on, man?
Yeah.
So yeah, to
It
embrace
had to be a
beard, I mean,
strange one.
we're proud of it, right? I mean, it's a long-term commitment, gals.
Yeah, that's a commitment.
Yeah, it is.
You want to see somebody that's going to stick around? Come on now.
Right.
Yeah.
I never really put it together like that. But how long have you guys been growing your beards, each of you? How many
Well,
years
I've
you been
had
at
mine
it?
for quite a while, but I had a goat that was really long for quite a while. But when we started up this project, I said, okay, I got to grow out the sides and make it for real, you know. And so, much to my wife's dismay at the time, but now she's going, no, don't cut it off, man. You can make some money with that thing.
I quit
Same
shaving
thing with
during
Mike.
COVID. I just quit shaving at COVID time, and it was about a year into it when Dawn and Tim and I decided to try to pull this together, and it had grown to a sufficient length that it worked and it filled the part of Dusty. But now it's gone beyond where I think Dusty's beard has, and I'm just going to keep letting it grow because I would have to say to myself, you know, if Dusty was around, his beard probably
He let his grow, I'm pretty sure, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Mike could grow a beard in a fucking week. Oops, I'm sorry. Sorry. He can do it in a week.
Yeah, I'm saying, what, COVID and that happened? I'm like, my
Yeah.
God, man.
I've
Yeah,
never
look
seen
at
anybody
this
do
is
that.
COVID. This is COVID length as well. I stopped
Yeah.
getting haircuts during COVID, and so
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
see, that horse has left the barn a long time ago for me. But
What I always say is, they're like, man, how do you grow a beard like that? I go, you start a ZZ Top tribute band. Is what you do.
Right.
What
Listen
happens
more
is you
ZZ
got a
Top.
gig next week. So you're like, oh, man, even you wake up, you're like, man, I want to cut this thing off. Oh, I got a gig.
that's
So
right.
you cut it back, right? And then fast forward 12 years, and then look at you, you know.
That's how you build genuine intention.
Yeah.
but how do you know what your face looks like, though?
Well, you know, maybe you don't want to know is what the problem is. So that's better.
If you cut it off, and it's
some
a
things-
surprise.
You know, some stones need to be left unturned. I would say.
Exactly. You cut it off, and then you find out what's under there, and you're going, "Oh no, it's going to take me another year to hide myself again."
Yeah, you don't realize you have a hippopotamus chin or something. You're like, oh man, what happened?
Yeah. Yep.
Things
The
can't
wife
change underneath
files-
there.
Files for divorce. I mean, you know, things can go wrong. You lose your job. They're like, man, we just
Could
can't
be
look at
very-
you like that anymore. You know?
You know, I started
You're
working for a
customers.
company at my regular job, and I got hired on because I had been laid off for a little while, and I got this job, and I went in, and they wanted me to be customer facing, and I had to ask them blatantly. I said, "Okay, is the beard going to be a problem because I am not shaving?" And they said, "We'll have to leave that up to the client." I said, "Okay, let me reiterate, I'm not shaving."
That's right.
And the client said, "No, we think that's cool." So that it actually worked out, but it can interfere too.
So there are good clients.
There are good clients. There are some
Yeah, I
good
used to
ones.
do construction, man. So I'd have this thing with like a power drill. You know what I mean? And you know,
Ooh, Mike knows about that.
woo, let me tell you something. Those Milwaukees, man, they got those whole hogs.
Oh yeah.
They show no mercy.
Oh yeah.
He got in a fight with a drill press, and for a moment there, he thought the drill press was going to win.
Yeah. It started. I was working really close, and I was trying to drill like a 3/32 hole.
Right.
And real small, had to be dead nuts on, and I just had a couple little fibers hanging out in the breeze, and they got caught around the collet, and it was real quick, 32nd inch bit was real small, and next thing I know, it's pulling my head, and my forehead turned the auto stop off as I was going into it. And,
Woo!
yeah, I got really lucky, but I called
Yeah.
my wife. She wasn't home. And I'm like, I mean, I had to restrain from calling her because I knew I'd never hear the end of it. And so she wasn't home. So I called my neighbor, Doug, and he came over and kind of helped me get out because I couldn't get to anything to like unscrew the chuck or do anything. I was like stuck up against the collet on the drill press, man. And by the time I had gotten Doug over there, we WD-40'd it and everything, and we still backed it out, got the chuck out, and I still had a squirrel tail in the press, and my wife ended up keeping it as a kind of like a memento.
Nice.
Yeah, only casualty so far.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could just grow one back in 2 weeks. It seems like so. You know,
Yeah, he does. He really
I shaved
does.
it all off after that. I mean, I kind of like got rid of it all for a while. I think I had my face bare for about 6 maybe months or so, and then winter came, and that was it, man. I'm like, Colorado winters, I was just like, I am not shaving, man. And it's amazing. It's funny, like sometimes, like even like I'd get rid of this underneath my chin here, or under my nose, or on my lip here. The breeze, I could feel the breeze on my chin, and it was just really like, it was so annoying. I just couldn't stand it, man. So now I'm even in 100 degree plus weather. I've gotten used to the beard. Doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
yeah, it was like over 100 today. I'm wearing like a sports coat. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Well, back when my beard was black like yours, it would have been really hot. But now that it's almost pure white, it's like, not too bad.
Yeah,
It's reflecting the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to hear about the biggest gig that you thought was not going to be that great that ended up being amazing, because I need to pull this away from being a podcast about terrible industrial accidents.
Well, go ahead, Don. I'm going to go grab a beer. I'll be right back.
That's the spirit.
I'm trying to think what turned out to be a great gig. Some of the ones that are the smaller gigs turned out to be the really good ones for us. We're going, oh no, this is going to be a chore. We can barely fit on this stage. And one of them just happened up in Riverton this last weekend. It was a tiny club. We had worked on doing the dance moves, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there was no room for any of that. In fact, if Mike would have turned, he would have clocked me in the head with his headstock. And so
Oh man.
there was no room at all. But these people were digging it, and they wouldn't let us stop. We played like 30 songs, and they were digging it. So, and we didn't expect that. We were just kind of taking the second gig thinking, we'll make up some fuel cost, and it turned out to be really fun. So
Terrific. Those are the best.
yeah.
I love those unexpected things. How about you?
the backyard parties are always great. We've had the cops roll in numerous times. Gentlemen, you're gonna have to turn down. You got the lady down the street had a stroke. You're like, oh man. But I would say, memorable. Well, we got to. I'll tell you what. There's a spot we've been playing out in Hollister, California, where the original biker rally took place out there. They've got a winery and they've got a amphitheater, holds about 2,000. And we opened up there. They rolled in and they had like a 50s, like a Bel Air or something like that. But they brought us in the car. We got out, walked up to the stage, did the thing. Place holds about 2,000, maybe 2,500. It's a really cool spot. And
Wow.
We're actually playing there this Saturday. So we're really excited about that. But that's always a good gig. And right behind the stage, instead of like a backdrop, there's these old oak trees. And they've got like lights that are strung through them, right? So you've got that backdrop. Huge stage, with the big column. I mean, it's like going to Shoreline Amphitheater or any of the sleep trains or, any of that kind of thing. But just an outdoor, big, grassy knoll. And this time around, we're going in, I think, a 32 coupe. They've
nice.
So
Nice.
We're going to roll up, and we're opening actually for this band, The Long Run, which is
that's our guys.
Eagles tribute. They're from LA.
Oh no, our guys are from Colorado. And it's called
these guys they're from LA. They need the arm wrestle or something, man, over that. Because
boy.
Hey. But Eagles tribute, man. And they're supposed to be really good. And they supposedly sell that place out. So we're excited to be opening the show and giving them our ZZ Top. And then how do you really, come on. How do you come back from that, right? Hotel California? I don't think so. I don't know. So I don't know.
We've played with the local Long Run. They're called the Long Run Colorado. We played 3 gigs with them now. Those guys are really, really good. And it's fun. They're very gracious. They've been doing it for a long time. So they've set it up where they go on more extended tours than we have been able to do just yet. And they've kind of taken us under their wing, and they're really good.
be doing what they're doing, right? You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's where we need to be doing. And we've got a lot of that as well, where it's, we've got these bands we've been keeping our eye on. It's like, man,
Yeah.
flying overseas and doing some really cool stuff. And it just,
they're at the top of the heap as
you
far
would
as
think with a tribute band, you could do something like that. But yeah, in fact, there's a big market for it. So,
the
Very
thing about
true.
a tribute band is you either are nailing it or you're not working. That's the reality.
True.
You know what I mean? So on the one hand, you could say, well, they're an Eagles tribute band. I guess they're pretty good. If they weren't any good, they would not be working.
That's very true.
And and I mean, the same goes with you guys. If you're gonna cover ZZ Top and you're gonna go for it and really be true to the, to the spirit of the band, you got to nail it.
Right.
You can't half step it. You can't fake the funk, like Cornbread said.
That's totally true. That's why we've been a stickler for doing exactly that to the best of our ability. I'm not going to say that we have nailed it 100%. I don't think anybody ever will, but we're doing it to the very best of our ability, and we've got a positive response from it. And I think it's because of that. If you're a stickler for detail, and even the look, as goofy as that is, I think you have to put the effort into capturing that essence of the band, or at least the spirit of the band as they would do it. Because we play a couple guitars. Mike and I build guitars. Mike is a master painter, so he's been painting these guitars to match. And some of them don't look exactly like ZZ Top's guitars, but people always come up and comment, "Oh, that's cool," because they match like theirs would have,
Right.
So it's really fun that way, and I think that adds to a lot. Or how many bands can you pull up on stage in a 32 booth?
Yeah.
The Eagles bands don't get to do that.
Yeah, you're never going to fit them all in there, I don't think. But no, man, I mean, that was part of the other thing for us, because I mean, Tim and I had been playing in an original band that had records, and we're touring and doing that whole thing, right? We hadn't even thought of doing anything like this. And but once we did, and we were like, man, we gotta show these dudes some justice, because you listen to those old records and they're bringing it, man. There's no two ways about it. And like I said, you can't fake the funk, so you really need to do your homework. And luckily for me, it was just I played similar to how Dusty played. I was always a finger guy, and just dialing his tone in was really what it was all about. And then it just was easy. It was like, man, a lot of, like we talked about this, I think, before when I was on this show, which was he was doing stuff that I would have done. You know what I mean? I would have done that, right? So I mean, it was like the relation to it wasn't foreign; it was totally natural. And that what also makes it easy, because we go on these little jam tangents as well, where we kind of go off a little bit into the weeds, and then it becomes kind of like just jazz odyssey a little bit. But
we kind of do that too, and that's the beauty of it, because
Right.
they would have done the same thing.
Exactly. So you're staying true to the form, but you're not necessarily constrained to like a pattern or anything. You're able to express yourself with this music.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that I totally, and not to mention they're the coolest freaking band on the planet. I mean, you can't really point to anybody else and go, ZZ Top? Yeah, I mean, no, they'll always win that contest of cool.
Yeah,
and I mean, that was why all the big bikers, everybody were always at the ZZ Top show, right? It was just, you go there and you're like, all the hip people were there, and everybody else was like, whoa, look at all these scary dudes, But
but you know what? You and I are about the same age, and when we were kids and ZZ Top was around, they weren't for us, but we still knew they were cool.
Well, there was a different scene going on for us, right? So that's what's strange about ZZ Top, is because they had two careers. They had that 70s thing.
Yeah.
Then they dropped off. And then when MTV
they showed back up for MTV
that
and
came
us.
back, all of a sudden you have this whole new generation of people Because I remember my best friend, man. I go over to his house and he was wrenching on his old Camaro in the driveway, blasting Eliminator, and that was the first time I ever heard it. And then obviously the whole MTV thing, and TV dinners and legs, and that. But I wouldn't say at that moment that that's what drew me to them. It was probably more their older material, Tush and LaGrange, and those were the songs that I knew. Like you hear them on the radio and you're like, oh yeah, I love that song,
Yeah.
But maybe I didn't give it so much thought. Now you're in a ZZ Top band. It's like driving the same car and then you're driving by and you see like that same car everywhere. It becomes that a little bit. So you're always like, oh, they're playing ZZ Top. You're always kind of in tune to it, right?
Yeah, my point about that though is that we were young guys listening to young bands for young guys, and ZZ Top came along, and they still were cool enough that it was obvious. We didn't have to go, well, I don't know. Yeah, they showed up, and you were like, yeah, these guys are older than we are, but they're clearly the veterans.
And it was a true expression of somebody that, excuse my French, didn't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think back then. I mean, think of how the social attitudes were and everything else. To roll like they did. I mean, you're a true rebel.
Texas.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not conforming to anything. Your middle finger is straight in the air, and you're just like, man, I do what I do.
That's right.
If you don't like it, you can go to hell. And that's
rock and roll.
I mean, it's a little different, right? I mean, it's not kind of like today where you could just have a mohawk and tattooed face and be working at Arby's. Can I help you? It's just like it didn't used to be that way, right?
The commitment meant something.
So they were
during the MTV era. Those guys, I mean, they bent a little towards the MTV era, but it was mainly in the visuals.
Yeah.
And they brought a little bit of synth stuff into it. But if you strip down those songs and you listen to the live versions, it's still a 3-piece rock and roll band.
Yeah, playing blues.
Yeah, and they didn't go to the synth pop stuff that was really heavy in the 80s. They didn't do that. I mean, nothing against that, but they stuck pretty close to their roots. They had to bend a little bit to stay on TV, but the way they did it on their own terms too. I mean, they bring out that little Eliminator coupe, and everybody just went, hey, check that out. So I thought that was really cool. And they kind of distanced themselves by being these caricatures of themselves, watching all the hot chicks with the hot car. And I'm like, what a stroke of genius. I'm not sure if that was all by design or it was a happy accident, but man, it sure worked.
Yeah, no, exactly. It made him a mystical kind of creature almost, It's like, or how did they did the documentary, and they had I think it was Billy Bob Thornton on there, right? And he was just like, it was like seeing Bugs Bunny in real life, what I mean? Like,
it's very true.
And it is, right? It's just like, yeah, it's funny. And then rolling like this, and then Tim and I, and I'm sure you guys get the same thing. You're rolling, and there's people like, guys look like ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere you go, right? You're just
everywhere.
Like, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Get that a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty funny, and especially in these small towns like what we just came from. And you walk into a cafe, and the people had seen us the night before. I mean, you're instantly recognizable because you're playing their part, and they're instantly recognizable. But just the nicest people in the world. So that part has been really cool too. We get the benefit of some of their goodwill just by default, which is really cool.
Right.
Have you guys tried to pull this one off yet for a costume in public so nobody knew?
Oh.
The cousin it.
Yeah, we've done
I
that.
guess you could go incognito that way.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my problem is if you gave me a million years, I couldn't grow a beard. But, that's why Frank Beard only had a mustache, I guess.
Yeah.
So, John, in your band, do you guys do like visual stuff as well to kind of like pay tribute to the British wave of music, or how do you deal with that?
I typically will wear, something British look like. I'll wear a Union Jack t-shirt or something like that. It doesn't get too much further than that. I don't do something with my hair to look like one of the Stones or anything, but visually speaking, we tend to wear, like I bought a shirt I'll show it to you. I bought a shirt the other day. that's got the red phone booth on it.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, just little things like that, and that's fun enough. That's as tribute as we get. It's pretty generic, but you got to at least have some kind of you have to call to the nostalgia. I think if you're doing it right, you're making people feel good. You gotta let them feel some of that nostalgia, and as far as we can see right now, looking at the screen, there's nobody doing it as good as you guys.
Right on. Thanks, man.
We've had you guys for an hour, and I will do this with you for an hour anytime, but we typically will cap these shows at an hour for everybody's attention span. So I just want to say, Mike and Don are in El Loco Fandango, and if you're in the Colorado area anywhere, go check them out. Cornbread is in a band called Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, and I can attest to the fact that they drink beer and raise hell. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, brother.
Anytime you're in Northern
we try to stay
California,
true to our thing, so.
Yeah, that's right. So
Really a
everybody
pleasure
jump
to
in on
meet
that
and
good
talk
time.
to you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely, man. Same here. It's always a pleasure to touch shoulders with somebody else that's caught the same fever. If you will.
Do you guys get a vibe?
Weird.
If you guys were both in an Eagles tribute band, all three of you, or if you were in a Journey tribute band, because there's a zillion of those, would you guys be able to hang like this, or is this part of the ZZ Top vibe where you guys are like, we're not against anybody, we're all for everybody, let's have a good time?
Oh no, this is part of a very exclusive club.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, man. Yes, sir.
I'm just, I think we're so well into maturity that the fact that you're talking to anybody in our realm of age, range that's still playing, hats off, mad respect, and
Agreed.
just enjoy sharing the air and the moments and thoughts.
Right.
I love
Perfect.
Enjoy life, man. This is a short ride, so
It is a short ride. You might as well make it fun.
absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
listen, everybody, go out and see live music. If you got a special someone, take them out to see live music. I know.
Because guess what happens? Buttons come flying off of pants.
Flying off his
Pete knows what he's talking about. Believe me.
Yeah, man.
We were in science class together. I know. I copied off his paper. I did actually okay in that class, so I figured we're all right.
Well, listen, again, like what Sean said, this is so much fun. It's one of the favorite things that we get to do is just hang and talk about head units and a bunch of bullshit like that. But it always comes back to what J.R. Robinson said. It's like sitting back in the groove drumming. He's like, I'm looking for the asses that are moving, and that's it. That's the party. That's the party, man. I love it, you guys, all of you, all four of you do this. I can't get enough of sitting in John's practice space. And Cornbread, you got to get over there and go hang with those guys.
I'm gonna go. We were just over in Benicia actually the other day. I dropped my dog off because we did some camping up in near Downeyville up there where the clampers started their old thing. So we were doing some clamping, as if you call it that. And I brought some moonshine from my good friend Brent Weeks, who I'm going to give a shout out to right now, the original bass player from Pigs, who had passed away just recently. We went to and we played at his celebration of life, and everybody got a nice big jar of moonshine, his special recipe, man. So we were up there camping, sipping moonshine and thinking of Brent, man. So it was
Nice.
good times. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Brent, love you, brother.
Don and Krusty, any final words?
No, man, thank you. It's a real pleasure, and to be in a band with these two guys that I've been jamming with, and I've been blessed with an opportunity to continue on with my musical career, to accompany my artistic career, and it's always amazing how much fun and how much laughter we have along the ride to wherever we end up.
I just want to say thanks to all the people that come out and see us and make it possible for us to have this much fun.
That's absolutely true.
John?
I'd like to thank ZZ Top for actually writing these songs so we can actually go out and do what we do.
Amen.
I'll agree with that for sure.
Cheers.
Absolutely, fan.
Yeah. Thank you and good night. That's what I'll say.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much for